morning, and thanks for joining me here on Tarot Tats and Tea. You know, isn't it funny when you're getting ready to sort of create a video for your content here on YouTube? Sometimes you just, right, how am I going to do this today? What do I want to say? And how am I going to share my information? But isn't it all the more better when you've got a lovely cup of coffee made by your better half before he heads off to work? And I'm sitting here in my little room, the window's open, there's a lovely breeze blowing in. And hopefully if that cloud stays at bay, I'll be cycling into town in a little bit. But before I get to do that, why am I here? Today, I've decided to talk to you about a book that I purchased some time ago. Now, we did do a quick intro to it, as in this is what I purchased, so more of a quick glance at it. But I've had the opportunity to work with this book, as I use the term work very loosely, to use this book. And I thought I would share with you my findings on it so far. Which book is that? It's The History of Magic, Witchcraft and the Occult. So how would I be using this in my everyday? Well, I don't use it in my everyday life, and it's not a book that I would read from start to end. It is very much more along the lines of an encyclopedia when it comes to looking at sort of esoteric subjects. I've put some markers in here just to share with you little aspects of what draws me to it. It's a Dorling Kindersley book, and the foreword is by Susanna Lipscomb. I'll read the blurb on the back. Magic has intrigued us for thousands of years. Since prehistoric times, people have looked to other realms to explain the wonders of the universe and believed that they could manipulate spiritual forces to influence the physical world. This enchanting book takes a magical, mystical tour through history, stopping at alchemy, divination, paganism, shamanism, witchcraft and more on its way to modern-day Wicca, tarot and spells for the 21st century. Expect the unexpected as this beautiful and intelligent account opens your eyes to other worlds. Whether you are a believer or a skeptic, The History of Magic will leave you spellbound. Now, it is a great book. It holds an awful lot of information inside it. Each topic is unique to itself, topics that we have a collected interest in, such as tarot, and it goes right back to the ancient roots. Now, the book is divided. The book has wonderful colour images in it, okay, and the contents are broken down under 4 titles. So you've got Ancient Roots, and that's a prehistory to 400 CE. Then you've got Curse or Cure, and that's from 400 CE to 1500s. All these bring in, so the first part would bring in elixirs of the life and death, ensuring karmic harmony, cosmic harmony, miracles and forbidden magic, etc., etc. The Curse or Cure, Mandrake legends, drumming and trance, the runes, and those are just a couple to mention. The next section is Scholars and Sabbats. Each section has an introduction to it. Then that's from 1500 to 1700, and then 1700 to the 1900s, secrecy and ceremony. And of course, when we think secrecy, being members of TarotTube, we immediately think of the likes of the Golden Dawn. Okay. Then from 1900s onwards to today, we have modern magic. And each section holds such a vast array of information, but each topic is literally just a dip in. Okay, so this gives you the bones, and then it's up to you if you want to research a particular area even deeper to go further. It has an index in the back and a glossary so that you can have a look, you know. I won't go through the foreword now. It's a beautiful foreword by Suzanne Lipscomb. And I have marked the page I have marked here. So you see the introduction, it gives you all about the different Chinese energy maps, Mayan codex, and excuse me, and so on and so forth. So let's see what I've marked here to share with you. The first section that I've marked that I came across was this here, healing plants. And the reason I chose this is because this is an area that I have an interest in, as you are all so aware, as I've repeatedly told you, that I love my greenhouse, I love growing my herbs, and I do make things such as rosemary oil that I rub on, particularly my hand here, because if you notice I've got one very large arm, and that's through lymphedema, whether it's psychosomatic or not, but when I rub that oil on my arm, it takes away the ache that lymphedema can bring with it, and it does appear to help me. As you can see all this here, it does appear to tighten things up. Whether it does or not, it could be psychosomatic, but it works for me. And this looks at the likes of rosemary, bamboo, basil, aloe vera, and we all use aloe even in our sun lotions and after suns today. Sage, how do you use sage besides burning it for cleansing of our room? I cook with sage. I love picking my fresh sage leaves and chopping them up tiny and sprinkling them over a joint that I'm going to be putting into the oven. Apple blossom and absinthe. Now my absinthe comes in a bottle, and it goes on. Lavender, linked to peace and love, used in incense as a purifier and added to midsummer fires in Wiccan festivals, and as an essential oil it can improve sleep. I grow my own lavender. I have a whole section for lavender that I harvest, that I put in little vases throughout the house. When they're dry, I collect that. I also like to add lavender to a lavender bread. So because that's a particular interest of mine, it's something that I thought, well, I could read more into this. So you would think, well, plants and healing, okay? So this gives you an example of plants. If I want to know more, I have another book on herbs and foraging and things. And we've got elixirs of life and death and how these can be used in these sort of practices, okay? And how it brings into, ancient Chinese magic, etc., etc. The next section I marked off here. Like I say, this is not a book that I would read from cover to cover. It's a book I would dip in and out of. Now, why did I pick this section? Demonology in Renaissance Europe. Demons and the rebirth of the modern witch. And here we go. This is what we have here. Okay, and why I chose this was because it incorporated sort of things about witchcraft and how do I use witchcraft? And I have to question this myself. I was asked, and I think I've mentioned this before once a while ago, do I consider the practices I do as witchcraft? Well, I didn't. I thought it was, well, mixing my herbs, this, that and the other, but all those are deemed to be a form of witchcraft. So this is where I thought, well, what is it and how is it that this affected, that how would I have been seen today? How am I seen today? How would I have been perceived many years ago? Sort of like in the 1500s when there were witch trials with some very gruesome penalties. A witch is someone who knowingly tries to accomplish something through diabolical means. But who is the person that's called diabolical? I wouldn't think that creating something from herbs for curing is diabolical, but at the time, by some fanatics, it would have been seen as diabolical because it would be stepping out of the then perceived norm of Christianity and well, what would you call them today? Fanatics, Now, at the end of the day, when we think about it, witches were ancient healers, were and are healers. And did you know, even to this day, as it states here, okay, that we actually have modern day witch hunts? And I'll read this little bit to you because this came as a surprise to me. We all sit safely in our homes and do, sort of delve into the outer world through books, through movies, etc. Sometimes we do get to travel, but we don't always think, well, surely to goodness, this archaic practice is not going on in today's world. So, although witch trials petered out in the 17th century, with the last execution in Europe taking place in Switzerland in 1782, witch hunts have continued into modern times in areas where traditional beliefs have persisted and central authority is weak. In parts of Africa, such as Tanzania, tens of thousands of alleged witches have been persecuted, while in Ghana, thousands of women live in camps for those accused of witchcraft. Often widows or the elderly, seen as a burden at home, Witch hunts have also risen in Papua New Guinea and in parts of rural India, where accusations of witchcraft can be used as a pretext to settle scores in divided village communities. So this is Kukuo Camp in Ghana, which is an enforced home for women accused of witchcraft, many of them vulnerable widows ostracised by their community. Imagine being ostracised from your community merely because you're a widow. Quite scary stuff, that, to be honest. Now let's have a look at the other sections that I have marked. This one here, reading the cards, of course, that is a big interest to me, so I wanted to see what it said about reading the cards. And you know, it's enjoyable to read, it really is. The next section I marked off was, bear with me, Gothic magic. And the reason I marked this off was because under Gothic magic, here's the intro page, we have Speaking with the Dead. I like to meditate. I like to speak to my own dad. I like to speak to my ancestors. I'm doing that through a variety of ways, whether it's through my ancestral tarot work, whether I use my divination rods or my pendulum. And yes, I do feel that I do get a result from my communication with my ancestors. I don't believe that it's a wicked thing, and you know, you could say, well, you know, Christianity is speaking to the dead. You're talking to Jesus. He was crucified, was he not? You know, they're all people who have gone on, who are dead, and I do speak to people, those that I perceive to be a god, gods, saints, etc. And that would be a direct link to my Catholic upbringing. Although I don't follow the Catholic religion per se now, I do still have sort of beliefs that would be in line with Catholicism or Christianity. And as such, yes, I'm speaking to the dead. Now, let's have a look here. My next section that I marked off here was Man is One with God, the German occult revival. And in under that came runes for divination. And of course, again, because I'm into the divination with my tarot cards, with my pendulum, as I've stated, and rods, with divining with story cubes, divining with charms, with dice, etc., using crystals, divining through astrology, numerology. Runes came into it, and that came under this title of the Germanic Occult Revival. And our order possesses the key which opens up all Masonic and Hermetic secrets. So there's a huge amount in here. Well, I say huge amount. There's a lot of different information about different topics, but a small amount on each topic, if you know what I mean. It gives you a taster to want to go forward and read more from other sources and research, if that's what you like to do, which is something I do like to do. Then the last section I've marked off here so far is magic and the fantasy novel. So we all love fantasy novels, like The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, Harry Potter, The Lord of the Rings, etc., The Hobbit, and they all contain aspects of magic which feed that desire for magic in our everyday lives. And there's one quote here: "Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written," and that was C.S. Lewis, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe in 1950. And you know, again, you have lovely coloured photographs or drawings, etc. So the reason I marked this section off here, magic and the fantasy novel, because this also brings us into the era of the modern era of Wicca and witchcraft. And it was reading through this, and I thought, oh right, well, I do little things like that. I do things like that, and so I wouldn't be a group practice. I wouldn't belong to a coven. I would be an independent, a single practitioner. Okay, so and I enjoy it. Here in this, it talks about rituals and celebration, the ever-growing appeal of magic, and I think in today's world, you know, we have been living in a world where particularly here in Ireland, where everything has been church-led, church-driven, and there have been so many ways of living enforced on people, that now that that is falling away and people are becoming far more independent of organised religions, it's sort of like looking for something else, and that gives us peace, that helps us practice or live life in a way where we're not causing harm to others or ourselves, but finding peace in nature, in growing, in taking walks, appreciating Mother Earth, etc. And there's rituals and celebrations, and here we have an image of a lady setting up an altar out in a field, and you know, that can be seen this day and age. I do it myself. Why? Because I might be meditating out in the woods or on the beach on a quiet day. I tend to do things like that during school term, when children at school, parents are busy at work, and I have the place to myself. It really is nice. And this is another thing. The goddess is alive and magic is afoot, because that's what I do feel here and around me. I just feel electrified, if that makes any sense. And this goes on, and this was bringing up some magic. So that's what I have marked up to share with you, and to explain that I don't use this as a book where I am reading from cover to cover, as I've said. I use it if I'm coming across something and I'm not quite sure, or I think, oh, I've not really heard about that before, and I'll have a look, see if it's in this book anywhere, and think, oh, read a little bit about that. But it does have so many topics, there are more that I'll probably be marking up to refer back to, that I use in my everyday life that fall in under one of these. And I think, do you know something? This is a little treasure trove and explains to me what I do in my life. Not everything, obviously, but just in interest areas, in practices, and also looking at the history of my own practices. And I find it really enjoyable, really useful, and a book that I think is nice to have in your library. Okay, if this is a topic that you're interested in, of course. I purchased this some time ago in a bookshop that we have here, or a shop that we have here called The Works. It's sort of books and stationery and crafting stuff. And every now and again you will find a little treasure on their shelves, and it's something I'm really glad I added to my library. But I would imagine you could get something like this on the Dorling Kindersley website. So it's A History of Magic, Witchcraft and the Occult, and the foreword is by Susanna Lipscomb. There you go. So I hope you found that interesting. I hope this has given you a little bit of a thing. Oh, I wouldn't mind adding that to my little library. So whatever you're doing today, have a lovely day. I'm going to head off on a bike ride shortly, but I still have to pull my daily card, my card of the day, which I shall do before I leave my little enclave here. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and like I say, thanks for joining me.